Society Cht-Cht by Stephen Leacock, as it should be written. I notice that it is customary for daily papers to publish a column, or so, of society gossip. They generally head it Chit-Chat, or On Dit, or Le Boudoir, or something of the sort, and they keep it pretty full of French terms to give it the proper sort of swing. These columns may be very interesting in their way, but it always seems to me that they don't get hold quite the right things to tell us all about. They are very fond, for instance, of giving an account of the delightful dance at Mrs. D. Smith's, at which Mrs. D. Smith looked charming in a gown of old tulle with a stomacher of passamente, or of the dinner party at Mr. Alonzo Robinson's residence, or the smart pink tea given by Miss Carlotta Jones. No, that's all right, but it's not the kind of thing we want to get at. Those are not the events which happen in our neighbors' houses that we really want to hear about. It is the quiet little family scenes, the little traits of home life that, well, for example, take the case of that delightful party at the De Smiths. I am certain that all those who were present would much prefer a little paragraph like the following, which would give them some idea of the home life of the De Smiths on the morning after the party. De Smiths looks at the De Smiths residence. On Wednesday morning, last 7:15 a.m., a charming little breakfast was served at the home of Mrs. De Smith. The déjeuner was given in honor of Mr. De Smith and his two sons, Master Adolphus and Master Blinks De Smiths, who were about to leave for their daily travail at their wholesale Bordeaux de Fleurs et de Feed. All the gentlemen were very quietly dressed in their habits de work. Miss Melinda De Smith poured out the tea, the domestic having refused to get up so early after the party of the night before. The menu was very handsome, consisting of eggs, bacon, demi-foie, and ice cream. The conversation was sustained and lively. Mr. De Smith sustained it and made it lively for his daughter and his garçons. In the course of the talk, Mr. De Smith stated that the next time he allowed the young people to turn his mansion topsy-turvy, he would see them en feu. He wished to know if they were aware that some ass of the evening had broken a pane of colored glass in the hall that would cost him $4. Did they think he was made of argent? If so, they had never made a bigger mistake in their vie. The meal closed with general expressions of good feeling. A little bird has whispered to us that there will be no more parties at De Smiths pour longtemps. Here is another little paragraph that would be of general interest in society. Dinner at De Famille at the boarding house of De Finnegan. Yesterday evening at 6:30, a pleasant little dinner was given by Madame McFiggin of Rock Street to her boarders. The salle à manger was very prettily decorated with texts, and the furniture upholstered with chevaux de horse, Louis Quinze. The boarders were all very quietly dressed. Mrs. McFiggin was daintily attired in some old clinging stuff with a corsage de whalebone underneath. The ample boards groaned under the bill of fare. The boarders groaned also. Their groaning was very noticeable. The piece de resistance was a hunk de boeuf boyel, flanked with some old clinging stuff. The entrees were pâté de pumpkin, followed by fromage McFiggin, served under glass. Towards the end of the first course, speeches became the order of the day. Mrs. McFiggin was the first speaker. In commencing, she expressed her surprise that so few of the gentlemen seemed to care for the hunko de boeuf. In her own mind, she said, had hesitated between hunko de boeuf and boeuf boil and a pair of roast chickens. Sensation. She had finally decided in favor of hunko de boeuf. No sensation. She referred at some length to the late Mr. McFiggin, who had always shown a marked preference for hunko de boeuf. Several other speakers followed. All spoke forcibly to the point. The last to speak was the Reverend Mr. Weiner. The reverend gentleman, in rising, said that he confided himself and his fellow boarders to the special interference of Providence. For what they had eaten, he said, he hoped that Providence would make them truly thankful. At the close of the repast, several of the boarders expressed their intention of going down the street to restaurants to get quelque chose à manger. Here is another example. How interesting it would be to get a detailed account of that little affair at the Robinsons, of which the neighbors only heard indirectly. Thus, delightful evening at the residence of Mr. Alonzo Robinson. Yesterday, the family of Mr. Alonzo Robinson spent a very lively evening at their home on Blank Avenue. The occasion was the 17th birthday of Master Alonzo Robinson, Jr. It was the original intention of Master Alonzo Robinson to celebrate the day at home and invite a few of les garçons. Mr. Robinson, Sr., however, having declared that he would be dame first, Master Alonzo spent the evening visiting the salons of the town, which he painted rouge. Mr. Robinson, Sr. spent the evening at home in quiet expectation of his son's return. He was very becomingly dressed in a pantalon cortez avant tres and had his whippe de chien laid across his knee. Madame Robinson and the Mademoiselle Robinsons wore black. The guest of the evening arrived at a late hour. He wore his habits d'esprit and had about 6 pints of eau de vin in him. He was evidently full up to his cou. For some time after his arrival, a very lively time was spent. Mr. Robinson having at length broken the whip en chant, the family parted for the night with expressions of cordial goodwill. That is Society Chit-Chat by Stephen Leacock, done in the finest of French. Cod French, both from Mr. Leacock and for myself.